The prince's curse. I will never forget their eyes. They weren't human anymore. They glowed in the darkness, watching me, unblinking. It all started when the elders refused Prince Oba's demand to be king after his father's death. Tradition said the prince couldn't ascend until the mourning period was over, but Oba didn't care about tradition. He was furious and stormed out of the palace, muttering curses. I was just a servant, tasked with keeping the palace grounds clean. That night, as the village slept, strange things began happening. The goats started screaming like children. The air smelled of ash, though nothing was burning. People whispered that Oba had gone to the old forest to summon something. A week later, Oba returned, but he wasn't the same. His skin looked darker, as if he'd been walking through shadows. His voice was deep and sharp, like knife scraping. And then there were his eyes. They glowed faintly, even in daylight. That night, the first elder disappeared. His wife said she saw Oba standing by their hut, pointing at the moon, before her husband vanished. The next day, we found the elder's body at the river, bloated and covered in black handprints. One by one, the elders who denied him began to die in strange ways, drowning in dry wells, choking on air, and even vanishing altogether. The village was paralyzed with fear, but no one dared confront Oba. Then came the night I saw him in the palace gardens. I'd gone to fetch water from the well when I felt the air grow heavy. Turning around, I saw him standing there, staring at me. His eyes glowed brighter than ever, and his mouth twisted into a grin that didn't belong on any human face. "You should leave," he said, his voice echoing like there were many of him speaking at once. "Unless you want to join them." I ran, leaving the bucket behind. The next day, the last elder was found hanging from the sacred tree in the center of the village. Oba sat on the throne the same afternoon, crowned by a trembling priest. The village still whispers about that time. No one defies the prince anymore. They say the forest still answers to him, and on quiet nights, you can hear the drums echoing from its depths. But I can't forget those eyes. Even now, I sometimes wake up at night, certain they're watching me from the shadows.